Going live. We are live. Hello, folks. We're waiting for Wrestling a second. I'm sorry for being so late today. I'm also sorry for the beam of light that appears to be on my head. I have no way of fixing it, I don't think. I might try something real quick. But Ty's got the cool hat, and I wanted to explain. Ty should explain again, because he explained to us where this hat came from, but what's the deal with it? I like it. I love it, actually.
Yeah, this hat just says "Make Hockey Violent Again." This is a company, Violent Gentlemen. It's a company that you see a lot of the tough guys around the league wear. It's a company that some players have talked to me about when I've asked, because there's a lot of guys wearing it. And once they came out with this hat, though, "Make Hockey Violent Again," I felt like I had to grab that. It truly captures how I feel about where we're going as a country.
Yes.
I'm on the other end of one of those sides in terms of this hat and how I feel about the game of hockey. So yeah.
Well, I was gonna say,
awesome.
You said that tough guys wear it. I mean, that means that not too many players in the NHL are wearing it, because there are not that many tough guys anymore.
They're all getting phased out, but this hat's gonna bring it back.
That's right. That's right. Here's the website, guys, if you're just interested. See if I can find it. Here it is, violentgentleman.com. Is it right? Yeah, here we go. Cool. You can check it on here. Yes, this is violentgentleman.com. Go check it out. It's good. They're not an advertiser, although I'd love for them to be. But yeah, definitely pick up something. It's so funny. One time I was on here, and someone, I guess people freeze frame my browser, and up top here it says, Twitter at home, normal things, and then it says Penguin Cam, and everyone's like, oh, what the hell does that mean? And I'm like, they're like, oh, what, are you watching the Penguins all the time, something like that? And literally, this is what it is. I'm going to show you. This is how pathetic it is. It's from Frozen Planet. It is literally a camera in South Australia, I guess South America, that does nothing but show live penguins, actual birds. And I don't know how it ended up there. Now it looks like obviously it's a puppy cam. Sorry, the feed's temporarily offline. All right, so we're going to.
I thought my life was boring.
I know this is the kind of stuff I have in my browser. I don't know why. It's like one of those things I don't know.
Nothing. Shouldn't you be watching puffins instead of penguins? They're a lot more interesting.
Oh, I know that. I put out a puffin video that went viral, so I've got all that. I know all about puffins, Russ. You know that. But yeah, for sure. That's for sure. So all right, let's again, I can't stop but tell you that have you ever checked out Hockey Wives, Ty? I
have not.
It's like, I'm telling you, it's on YouTube. It's a Canadian show, and it is just I'm sucked into the reality world of this thing now, which is the funniest thing. Like
Well, that's appropriate, because reality TV and the word "suck" sort of belong together.
Well, yeah, and I'm not usually a big fan of reality shows, and I don't.
There's always a good show or two in reality world. There are.
But the ironic thing is, the episode I watched today, they go to Sheldon Surrey's wife's house in Vegas, which is like, and Russ is who you interviewed not too long ago.
Yep.
Funny, this is just crazy that came up today. So anyway. It is interesting, and George Paris, who you mentioned is one of the guys who wears his hat, his wife is one of the wives that's followed around the thing. So it's all like interesting to me, I guess. Maybe, well, I don't know, fascinating to a degree.
You're like a Yenta at heart. We get it.
It's a great thing for the last week of August, okay, when there's absolutely nothing going on in the hockey world.
Wait a second. I have to say this, though. I got significant response from my friends on Twitter for posting, "I hate August. Thank God August is over with, and thank God September is here, because Leafs hockey and hockey itself is back." And that's all I have to say, because August is the worst month. And a friend responded, "Would you take February over August?" And I'm like, well, colder weather and hockey as opposed to bugs, allergies, and super hot weather, I'll take February.
Yeah, I see. I would take August over February, but there's plenty of other good months. But here's what I hate about August now: the pushing down our throats of pumpkin spice and pumpkin everything. I hate pumpkin.
I know it's usually an October thing, but I noticed it's coming up earlier.
They started to push it in August, from the second week of August, and what happens is it takes the place of some of your favorite flavors on the shelf, because now instead of regular Cheerios, it's pumpkin Cheerios. Like, get over it. I just saw someone posted a thing for pumpkin Clorox. Like, just stop. Stop the pumpkin madness. Wait until late September, and then it's fine.
Hashtag war on pumpkin.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Russ likes.
Yes, it's funny of all the gourds out there. The pumpkin became so popular, and and the
Who would ever say it's a fruit? It doesn't even look like a fruit.
no, but it's not something you sit down with. Like I'm a weirdo that I'll sit down and eat a tomato just like by itself all the time. Like I love tomatoes. I'll eat a tomato with a little bit of salt, and I'll just eat that like most people eat an apple, right? That's one of my things. And but you can't remember the time you would sit down and eat a pumpkin like that. Just sit down and try to.
Well, I prefer gourd downy than that other.
Yeah. Pumpkins are gorgeous. All right, let's do the show here. Why don't we?
Ty, follow me.
Of course.
Of course. Oh, by the way, Ty, before we start, sorry, I gotta show you one thing real quick. Ignore that bell. This was sent to me by a friend of mine. Remember this?
Boston Breakers.
Okay.
Is this before your time?
Yeah, I'm gonna for my time.
The USFL is before his time?
Oh yeah.
The USFL was 31 years ago.
I didn't think so at all. That's craziness.
I'm 16 years old. I'm not. I'm 20.
ISDN is before his time.
It's one of the coolest helmets in football history, though. I thought this was such a cool helmet, and I was like, I mentioned it the other day.
Ty is so young that Britney Spears is a cougar to him.
That looks like an IIHF approved football helmet. That's what that looks like.
This? No,
Yeah.
this
It looks like a bad World Cup of Hockey color scheme for an
That's
award.
Europe's helmet.
Well,
Yeah.
everything comes around to Donald Trump here because Donald Trump was an owner in the USFL, and the hat that
Yeah,
Ty is wearing is an homage to that.
right. He owned the New Jersey Generals, and recently I saw online a New Jersey Generals helmet signed by Donald Trump, like on eBay for like $700 or whatever it was. That was a teen account, so there you go.
700 more than I would pay for it.
It's 700 more than it'll be in like 90 days from now. That's for sure.
Yep.
So I would definitely go for it. Let's hit this again. Here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It's Wednesday, September. No, it's not. It's Thursday. Hello, Hockey World. It's Thursday, September 1st, 2016.
I'm Michael Lagello.
I'm Ty Anderson.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I am Eklund, and you're watching the Hockeybuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com, this time with less KHL. We come with a podcast that comes to you every Monday through Friday at this time, between 1 and 3 p.m., and I wanted to apologize to the KHL yesterday for showing their footage, which then they blocked us within minutes after the show of and forcing Russ and Mike and I to do a second show without any KHL mention. And we were going to call it the league that shall not be named, but I'm not going to call it that. But I think the fact is that Datsuk had a great goal. We were showing it just to show off the fact that there's great hockey being played in the KHL, and yet that was obviously deemed something that you guys didn't want us to do. So we won't talk about the great hockey or show the great hockey being played in the KHL anymore. It's
are now dead to us.
I'm not criticizing them. It is their right to not promote themselves, and they are allowed to do that. It's perfectly fine, perfectly legal. So anyway, that's the deal. So we will not be doing that. Oh my goodness, holy cow!
Nobody in the KHL would wear Ty's hat. That's for sure.
No.
No.
That guy who got banned.
Right. I was thinking he's the only one.
Yeah.
Well, those 100,000 troops piled on the Crimean Ukrainian border, they're not troops that are going to invade. They're fans going to the next KHL game.
Correct. Speaking of Russia, Alaska, and let's a bordering state. And speaking of Alaska, the end of Scott Gomez's career. An interesting career it's been. He's been, he's at times been a phenomenal player for the New Jersey Devils. Was a out and out, stud scorer. Led the Devils to some Stanley Cups. Was a big part of that. Then was a part of a very notorious trade, which sent him from, of course, a notorious signing on the day. Remember the day that Scott Gomez signs with Chris Drury in New York.
I was going to ask Russ this. What was more notorious, the signing or the trade?
Well, I mean, the signing, because a lot of people were against that, because here's the thing about Scott Gomez. He was a really great player for the Devils,
yes.
But he did play well at MSG, but it was also widely known that at that point in his career, he didn't have the same fire that he did for a while with New Jersey. And that was a little bit of a warning sign. Now, Scott Gomez is always going to love New York because he made something like $63 million in his career, and $51 million of it were because of that contract.
Right. Right. And then a lot of it's still coming to him for quite a while to go. You know, I mean, he's still going to be getting paid for quite some time now, right?
Well, this is the thing, and Russ, you may know more of the inside of this, and if you don't, I apologize for bringing it up. But they signed Drury and Gomez the same free agent year, and the urban myth out there was that the Rangers were only interested in really signing one of them, and they sort of got caught in a process where they were negotiating with Gomez, negotiating with Drury, and both of them said yes.
No, I don't. I've never heard that that's really what happened. I don't believe that. And look, and I don't kill him for the Drury signing because, again, Drury had every credential in the world, right? It's just his motor just started to run down on the Rangers. His career just started to tail off, but he was a great leader. He was great in the room. Like, there was nothing bad. Scott Gomez was just the wrong place for him, too much pressure. He was on the backside of his career. But again, Ranger fans will always love Scott Gomez for the Ryan McDonagh trade, and that trade will probably haunt the Canadians for at least another 10 years. And it's just, here's the weird part about that trade. I mean, Gordy Clark has said on my show for Sirius, and he's the director of scouting for the Rangers, the reason the Canadians traded McDonagh was they felt he wasn't going to be a physical player.
Yep, I remember
and
that.
we have to laugh at that because he was such a young player then, and now look at him. His nickname is Mack Truck. They couldn't have been more wrong.
I remember it well, and you're exactly right. I remember exactly where I was. I remember I was picking up my wife at a conference at a hotel in the lobby. We were heading to dinner when that trade went down, and literally that's like one of those big trades that you just remember exactly where you were. And I was updating my blog from a phone. It wasn't that easy at that time. It was, and I was going through. I remember the whole thing. It was just. I remember this. It was crazy. It was a crazy trade at the time because the Montreal Canadiens definitely set out. They had their first opinion on Gomez, and that was it, and they weren't listening to anybody else. And they really, it was known that McDonagh, right? And it was known that they didn't like McDonagh. That was known, and that was a strip. But no one thought that they were really that crazy that they would move him, because he had so much. There were so many people that said, no, this kid's going to be worth a lot to you, and the Canadians needed that kind of player because Markov was getting older at that point. He's still old now. So that's, I mean, if that's I remember right. They were basically they had like Sheldon Saray and Mark Streit at that point, right? That's who was in Montreal. I'm trying to remember the guys, the defense that were there.
Yeah, no, those were guys that were there.
I think Saray was gone by this point.
He was gone by that point.
Okay.
And I think, Streit signed after I believe Streit signed with the Islanders in 2008. I want to say. I want to say it was after 07. Yeah, because Streit was on the 07-08 team that beat the Bruins in the first round that year, I believe.
Okay.
So yeah. So and that Gomez trade, I believe, happened. I want to say 2009-10 was when that deal.
2009, yeah. And the funny thing is, and one of the players that was brought up very much in the infancy of Hockey Buzz was Matt Sundin and all the trade and the no trade situations. That's when I started working for Hockey Buzz, and there was. After the 2008 season, when he was a free agent and the Leafs had peddled his rights to Montreal in the summer of 2008, the speculation was that if Sundin had signed with Montreal, that the compensation would have either been Grabovski, who they ended up giving a second-round pick for, or Ryan McDonagh, who was their first-round pick in 2007, and they had soured on in the span of a year. So the absolute lack of judgment on the part of the Montreal Canadiens in that deal, not only giving up McDonagh, but Gomez really didn't do much in the years that he was in Montreal. So it was just a baffling move by the Habs.
Now I got to give X some credit because a couple of years later, I was at a book signing for my Winter Classic book with Ryan McDonagh. It was during the lockout. And I got a text on my phone literally during the book signing, and it said, the lockout's over. And I looked at McDonagh, and I said, well, it looks like you're going back to work. The lockout's over. And he goes, oh, that's good to know. And he was like, that's great. Like, he was, like, really happy.
Yeah.
So, technically, you were the first guy to tell Ryan McDonagh that the lockout was over.
Oh, that's cool. I never knew that story. That's really good.
Well, one of the things I always wonder about Scott Gomez and many other players like Scott Gomez, if you didn't know his contract, would you look back on his career as sort of as meh as you do? You know, because it was sort of like he went to New York and was like, this contract's huge. He gets traded to the Canadiens. He struggles in Montreal. Really, people didn't start to appreciate Scott Gomez again until he sort of reinvented himself, you know, when he was out of that contract and playing for his job in different AHL cities, in different NHL cities.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of when you start to realize, okay, this was a pretty good player. You know, this was a guy that was an impact talent for a long time. Mm-hmm. And, he's a guy, I think, like Wade Redden, too. Wade Redden in Ottawa was a great defenseman.
Yeah, that's a great comparison, too. I mean, they're very – I mean, you know, you're right. I mean, Gomez – now, of course, I remember Gomez really as a flyer killer, you know, for the Devils. Like, I remember there were years when the Flyers would lose in the playoffs to the Devils, and the Devils would go on to win the Stanley Cup. And that was – Gomez was, I always thought, like one of the craftiest playmakers you'd ever see. Like that was his game to me. I saw him as a playmaker. He was really just found the openings, found the holes. Really, really sneaky player, and a good teammate too. And the weird thing about Gomez, at least from an outside perspective, following him over these years, and some of the friends of his who followed him too said his attitude changed a lot over time too. That he became.
That's what I was talking to you about in the locker room.
The locker room changed a lot from him being really. And even when he would come back to the bench in his later years, or with New York or Montreal, he'd be really hard on his teammates. He would really just have like this very arrogant type attitude. People just didn't like it. And that really wasn't present in New Jersey, where maybe it was because you had guys like Stevens and Niedermeyer and John Madden keeping everything sort of in line. But there, when he went on to other places, his attitude became kind of legendary around the league, like that he was a bad dude on the bench, and that changed when he became a tryout player, because I talked to people then later said, he's been people in San Jose, for example, when he played there, said, he's great on the bench now, so
he very average seasons, like your 16 goals, like his 70-point season was a good season, but most of the time with the Rangers, he was getting 16 goals, around 58, 59 points.
Well,
that's mediocre numbers for them.
Well, that's the funny thing, Russ, is that he got that contract with the Rangers over, I think it was 7.7 or 7.8 million, something like that. And if you look at his statistics, the first 10 years of his career, he only scored over 20 goals once, and that was the weird 2006 year when everybody was scoring like crazy. He scored 33 goals. Every other year, he scored less than 20.
Yeah.
He was mostly a playmaker. He had over 40 assists for every year except one. And after the age of 31, he was done. There was nothing there. So, yeah, I mean,
Scott Gomez could still skate.
He can still make plays. I mean, and even with San Jose, you saw it. They became a power play specialist sort of in his later years, and
Florida too. Florida especially, he was a really good player for them.
Yeah, he was, and of course the great story of his coming up. I know Kevin Allen spent a whole week with him up in Alaska one time to learn about his upbringing, and said it was an incredible story, like how where he came from, and the pride Alaska has in Scott Gomez. We haven't seen another player, really, have we, from Alaska? That's like, I'm trying to think of another.
Joey
Alaskan.
Crab.
Not Dubinsky, right? He's not. Is he from there?
Yeah, Dubinsky's from Anchorage or something.
Okay, so Dubinsky's the other one. Yeah. Okay, so
I think there's a goalie too. I want to say there's a goalie, but I'm not 100% on that.
There is Ty Conklin.
Ty Conklin, right? Okay, so there's a couple more, but he really, the whole Mystery Alaska movie was based around him, apparently. Loosely, I think.
That's how he signed with the Rangers. It all makes sense now.
I know. There you go.
Mystery Alaska, that's a bad movie for Ranger fans, as we know, because the Rangers could travel all the way to Alaska, be the favorite, and lose. So let's
but that's the realism of the movie. Like in a lot of ways, like that's realistically what would happen with the Rangers in that situation. So I thought that was pretty appropriate.
Okay, there are currently 5 players in the NHL. 5 players in the NHL or in NHL organizations that are from Alaska currently.
Okay.
We've already named 2 of them, Scott Gomez and Brandon Dubinsky. I'll eliminate the one who's in the minors, Phoenix Copley, who's, I believe, in the St. Louis organization.
Yeah.
One is a defenseman who was bought out by a team that was in the conference final last year.
Oh.
Former Philadelphia Flyer defenseman.
Oh, Seiden? No.
No. Who?
Matt Carl.
Matt Carl's from Alaska?
Yeah, see, I was thinking Matt Carl, but I wasn't thinking he was from Alaska. I don't think I knew that.
Oh, wow.
And the other one
of the he gets redemption this year in Nashville.
Yeah.
He could.
He could. He really could. No, I mean,
Well, he just can't skate anymore. That's the problem. Is that
Right.
you watch him? The Lightning did everything they could to try to give him a proper role this season.
yeah.
And it was tough because they often had to saddle him with one of their young guys that can move the puck well. But the problem is that Carl couldn't be that stabilizing defensive presence either. So that pairing was often a disaster, whatever it was. So
Yeah.
he's a guy that I just think, similar to what we talked about with Gomez, is that the mind is there, the legs aren't, though. Or what you want to talk about being done, I think. Done in different ways, if you will.
Yeah, he's taking over the number 6 Barrett Jackman role that he had in Nashville. The other one is a former teammate of Matt Carl's, and I'll just give it was Nate Thompson. Nate
Thompson. Okay, I don't think I knew that either.
But other ones, Joey Crabb, Casey Bailey, who's was in the Leafs organization, who's now in the Ottawa organization. Former Sabres first-round pick Barrett Heiston, who was a complete bust.
I remember him, yeah.
And ex-Toronto Marley, or at least he was a Marley last year, Justin Johnson, who is an enforcer of some renown in the ECHL and AHL.
There you go. Interesting stuff. I love this tweet from David Booth. Did you guys see this? Here we go. So this is David Booth's tweet. It says, "Hey, World Cup of Hockey, is it too late to add an all buyout team?" We were just talking the other day about Twitter, and
Ilya Brizgalov is the goalie.
Yeah, you got some serious players on that all buyout team.
But they would have no chance.
Oh yeah, they would have absolutely.
They could beat like the Team Europe, I think, but beyond that, I'm not sure.
Team Europe has a buyout player on their team. They got Dennis Seidenberg.
That's right, they do. We talked about Seidenberg a little bit yesterday because of the rumors about him possibly going to New Jersey. What are your thoughts on that, Ty?
That's a team that I sort of thought would have an interest in him. I do wonder whether or not there is an NHL home for him. I talked to some people, and they sort of talk about how a lot of these guys, especially the German players, they could go home and play in the DEL, the German league, and they would have a great time. They'd be in their home country. It's not like the KHL where the travel is rough or you have bad accommodations, things like that. It's a very positive league for people that are involved in it. So I wonder, like Marcel Gottsch is a guy that I think of like this, right? Gottsch had invitations last year from several teams to go there on a tryout basis and try to make the NHL again. But he was also offered a 4-year contract from one of the German league teams. So he took that and decided to go back home. It's almost like you have to weigh what's more important to you. Is Seidenberg ready to go home? That much I don't know. I know he lives in New Jersey in the offseason. But he does live closer towards the Philly side.
Yeah, he lives in South Jersey, which is like another world.
Yeah, so maybe New Jersey isn't the perfect fit, but if you can get back in the NHL in any way you can, I think you have to try it. And he's a guy that I think playing the World Cup of Hockey might actually help him. It might raise his stock a little bit if he can sort of channel what he used to be. The problem is that after the knee surgeries, while Dennis Seidenberg is a tank, and there's no denying that at all, you do sort of wonder if the body can still hang up, because that was the problem last year for the Boston Bruins.
Well, I mean, Jochen Hecht Jochen Hecht is a former NHLer, German player who ended up going to the DEL, and he's been over there the last 3 years. So that might be a way for like a guy like Christian Ehrhoff, who might not have a future anymore at 34 years old, and it might be the way for Seidenberg if he wants to take it. Ty, I wanted to ask you, because earlier in the week, Dominic Moore signed with the Bruins, and it was a little surprising because after watching him last year with the Rangers, again, it's sort of like the Danny Paille situation, sort of flip-flop because he went to the Rangers last year. I don't know if there's anything left in the tank.
Yeah, I think with Moore, they're talking about a player that is going to play 7-8 minutes a night, mainly used for defensive zone faceoffs. You look at their roster; they lost 3 left-handed shooting centers this offseason between Chris Kelly, Jonas Kemppainen, and Max Talbot. Granted, not all 3 of those guys are great centermen, But still, that is an option that Claude Julien likes to have for a defensive zone faceoff, especially against a right-handed center on the other team. So this, I thought, was an issue for them because if you look at their roster before Moore, Ryan Spooner was the only left-handed centerman, and you don't really trust him, I think, for those defensive zone faceoffs. It's not really his game. And Noel Acciari was sort of their fill-in fourth-line center to close out the year, but you don't want to just hand a roster spot to a kid with 19 games of NHL experience. That's really not a great recipe for overall success, I find. I think it's good to have that competition. And, Moore, I agree with you. I think he does look a little cooked in terms of what he can do overall. But if you limit his role and you really just focus on the defensive side of things, the faceoffs, when Bergeron or Backes can't do it, I think you're going to be okay. And also, at the same time, if he can't play, Don Sweeney will not be gun-shy when it comes to putting him on waivers or just or Claude Julien benching him in the press box. Well, you've seen these guys sort of grow over the past year because they realize their jobs are on the line. They are more willing to cut loose a dead weight. They did it with Campine, and they did it with Ronaldo, Talbot even. So they're not afraid to make a move if it doesn't work out. So, it's a low-risk, potentially high reward for them, for a team that really, I think, relied on Bergeron too much last year. He took almost 2,000 faceoffs last year. That's just too much. Most in the league, most in his career, I believe. So they need another option for faceoffs. So I think between Backes and Moore, and even Krejci, I think they have more than enough now in their arsenal.
Well, that's the benefit of having him signed for $900,000, because if you send him down to the AHL, you can bury the entire salary. Russ, do you think Moore can handle 6 to 8 minutes a night?
Yeah, he can handle that. I mean, he could also penalty kill, and he's about 55% on faceoffs. His goal scoring used to come via hustle plays and his speed, and the speed's just not there anymore. So that's why he can't give him much more than that ice time wise. But if that's the plan, he could handle that.
Yeah, and you look at the point totals last year for him. He had 6 goals, 15 points, 80 games. Nothing that really wows you. But then you realize that it's something almost like 80% of his starts, he's out there starting the defensive zone. So it's one of those things where you can't look at the points and get over infatuated with that. I think you have to really sort of look at the overall picture here. And if they're going to clearly use him in a fourth line role. So long as it's not 15 minutes a night, they should be okay.
Right. No, that's for sure. I like him. I think he brings some character to a young team.
Oh, he's good in the room. Everybody loves Tom.
Which I think is a good thing. I mean, it's because it's going to be a younger team. It's going to continue to get younger.
Yeah.
So why not? I mean, that's like about the possibility of Brandon Proust or Prust in Toronto too. Same kind of thing. But I see them as similar type players in a similar.
Moore's got more tools in the toolbox than Prust, though. That's the issue.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do agree with that.
You're right about that, Russ. But the thing is, and we'll see how this evolves during training camp. Babcock at the end of last season. I mean, I can't stress this enough. He was not happy with the fact that the Leafs got pushed around most of the time. And they added Matt Martin, who's a physical guy and will fit in a fourth line winger role. But if Kirby Reichel is not ready and they want to have him be the guy, like the 13th forward going back and forth between the Marlies and the Leafs, and he's got waiver exemption, there might be room for a guy like a Brandon Prust as a replacement for what Rich Kloon was last year, which was basically sticking up for. I mean, the thing is,
it's a faulty thought. I do. Here's why I think it's a faulty thought. Because if you let Matt Martin do it, he'll lead the league in hits, right? So that's one thing. The other thing is, Kirby Reichel is at this point, way stronger and could levy a lot more punishment than Brandon Prust could ever hope to, whether he ever becomes a full-time NHLer or not. He's just a big kid, and he can skate fairly well. And he's not a great skater, but he's an okay skater. And I would rather go with the kid because he's a much bigger guy.
Well, I think eventually they're going to try Kirby Reichel, but I think maybe if they don't think he's ready, then that gives Prust an opportunity to maybe earn a pro contract. I mean, the other factor is, you're talking about possibly 7 to 8 rookies on that Leaf team, and that there are.
Problem. Why is that a problem for the Leafs?
Shouldn't be, but.
Well, I don't think that Babcock is going to want to go with 8 rookies. I think he's gonna want to have some of those rookies getting some experience alongside veteran players who can show them the ropes, and then mix in other rookies as the season goes along. I don't think he wants to throw 8 guys into the fire and see if they can extinguish it.
What does it say though about, let's say, Reichel does get beat out by Brandon Prust. What does that say about the young kid? That he can't beat out the bought out, old, falling apart veteran? Isn't that more of an indictment on the young player than it is the team that extends the contract or the PTO, whatever it may be?
It depends on what the context of the signing is. If they sign Prust, I mean, if it's clear that they're bringing in Prust to be a role player, to be a spot filler for a season, I don't think it's a detriment to the progress of Kirby Reichel, because I think Kirby Reichel will probably then have a prominent role with the Toronto Marlies. Not a top 6 role, but a bigger role, and he'll be able to probably grow into an NHL spot later in the season when they trade off all of these UFAs like Mihan Mihalik or Colin Greening, or there's a few other UFAs. So I think that's I don't think they want to rush these rookies. I think the ones that have waiver exemption that they can send down to the AHL, they're going to preach and practice some patience with. That's why the whole thing with Mitch Marner right now is such a dilemma for the Leafs, because there is no in between. He either goes back to London or he plays in the NHL. And if they'll give him the 9 games, but if there's one hint of him not being ready for the NHL, I don't think they're going to hesitate and send him back to London.
But here's the thing. I mean, again, I just looked up Kirby Reichel, and his last run with Columbus, he had 9 points in like 27 games. That's a lot more points than Brandon Prust will ever put up again.
True.
And so if they do bring in Brandon Prust, then that's telling me that Mike Babcock is still in the old NHL. That's where his mind is, because he thinks that a guy like Prust is going to help because he's going to sort of play this role on a mediocre team. And then I think it makes the Leafs look bad, because I think it takes them from being a rebuilding team to sort of being a team with guys like that. Why do you still have guys like that? You're a rebuilding team. You don't need a guy like that.
And Reichel's got to outwork Prust, which shouldn't be as hard as.
Shouldn't be that hard. I agree.
Yeah. That's what it comes back down to, I think.
But they may see Prust as a character guy who can be a good influence on younger players. And Reichel may be a better player, but he's another young player. I think that's where the difference is. I think if they're focusing, I mean, they brought Milan Mihalik in, and they convinced him to waive his no-trade clause with Ottawa before the trade for Phaneuf. And one of the reasons was they said to him, we want you to be a role model for some of our younger players, to come here, to play well, to work hard, and show them what you can do. I think that attitude, that work ethic, I mean, that's one of the reasons why one of Mike Babcock's favorite players has been Matt Hunwick. He's not the most talented player. He just works very hard.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We'll see. We're going to move on to a thought here that happened today, that Henrik Zetterberg has been knocked out of. This is disappointing. This is a big player.
It's a potential death blow for Team Sweden.
I thought so too. He's out of the World Cup, getting replaced by Mikael Backlund, who is a good player, but
is like 1/10 of Henrik.
It's not Zetterberg. Yeah. And that this is and I thought, wasn't Zetterberg just named captain of the team too recently?
Yes.
Right, he was. So, and this definitely is a surprise then, for sure.
At the same time,
yeah,
it is a major windfall for the Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah, you're right about that, I think.
Between Kronwall and Zetterberg, 2 guys that they absolutely need to be healthy and who struggle mightily to be healthy.
Right.
To have these guys sitting this tournament out and completely limiting the risk of any further injury is exactly what you want to hear, I think, if you're Ken Holland.
Sure.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really, really good point.
It is.
And something that, again, like I still struggle with Carey Price playing in this World Cup.
He's playing, you know that.
I know he's playing, but they don't need him to play, and at the same time, does anybody think Canada is less likely to win this without Carey Price?
Yes, I actually do.
Yeah, I would.
I do.
Now, if he's healthy, he's one of the most valuable players in hockey and the best goaltender.
Okay, yeah, I know, but is Canada still good enough to overcome that? I mean, that's
well, they've already lost Jamie Benn.
Zetterberg, right? But Zetterberg is a bigger loss to Sweden than Carey Price would be to Canada. We can agree on that.
Yes, because Sweden doesn't have Braden Holtby behind.
Right. I mean, Holtby is a really good goalie, so.
Yeah, they got the best goalie in the world. I don't even think it's close.
Yeah, I mean that's
got that stiff Henrik Lundqvist.
Right. No, that's the case though. So I think that I don't know. I think that I'll still maintain that if
You're looking at your big stars are Ekman Larson, Backstrom, Forsberg, and then it gets a little weaker. Ekholm, Silverberg, even Daniel Sedin, who's really good still, not a superstar anymore. Henrik Sedin, not a superstar anymore.
Well,
Hagelin, Eric Carlson, superstar.
I think their defensive pairing of Hedman and Strawman based on their familiarity with one another, might be the best pairing that you're going to have in that tournament because they're going to be in sync with one another.
Yeah, better than offensive defensemen. They do in Carlson and Ekman Larson, but they're missing forwards. They are.
Yeah.
No, they definitely are. They're missing a lot, and it'll be an issue as we go along here. But it'll be fun to see. I wonder. I just really wonder. You got Crawford, you got Hope, and I still think that Montreal, fans would be happy if Carey Price would suddenly be, oh, you know what, I'm gonna not do this because I don't think that's gonna happen, of course. But
it's not gonna happen. They built the whole team around him. I'm telling you, it's not happening.
They really didn't build it around him.
They did. I'm telling you, I was on the press conference. They mentioned his name every 10 seconds.
Yeah, but that's not. I mean, it will be different on this team if Hope was their goalie.
I'm just telling you.
How would this team be different with Hope?
I interviewed Patrice Bergeron for next month's New England Hockey Journal.
Yeah.
Go buy it. So we were talking, and I talked about how Brad Marchand is going to be on this. He's on the team with them, and I said, if you guys are on a line, who do you want as that right winger? And he goes, well, is there a bad choice? And I was like,
yeah.
And then I looked at the roster and I went, there's actually really not. You could pick almost anybody. And you know what's really interesting about this roster, I think, especially now that Jimmy Benn is off this roster, very, very hard to make Team Canada if you're anything besides a center. You look at their rosters, all centers down the board. Every single player. I think there's maybe one or two natural wingers that made the team. And Marchand is one of them, which is kind of crazy.
And Jamie Benn was another one.
Right, and without him, you're right. I mean, it's been the case for it's interesting because it goes back to guys that are drafted out of Canada are usually centers too, right? I mean, that seems to be the thing, and then they get moved to wings. It's very rare just in this day and age to have these superstars in Canada play center. I mean, that's what ends up happening. More than likely they end up playing center. It's just
Stamkos and Tavares are probably going to be playing on the wing.
Yeah, I mean they are, and they have to. I mean, you have to play wing. I mean, there's no question. I mean,
But it does show you that when you play center and you have that added defensive responsibility, that you can be moved anywhere on the ice and you're fine. It's harder to be moved to center than being moved away from center.
No question about that. No.
Now, the interesting thing, and I mentioned Stamkos, is remember Stamkos came back for that last game, Game 7 in the conference final. So that was one game. I mean, we haven't heard anything yet about it. Supposedly in the absence of any kind of information, I'm assuming that he's going to play. But you see guys like Ben, you see guys like Zetterberg dropping out. I mean, is this a situation where Stamkos, if it gets closer and he doesn't think he's ready, he drops out? I mean, you're losing a lot of star power from this tournament, and I think that could affect a lot of things with it.
Well, I think what will be interesting to see is when this tournament comes back around. Depending on if they stop going to the Olympics or not, which I don't think they're going to. I get the more and more impression that they are going to go to the Olympics still. And will players opt out of this tournament? Will this become an opt-out type tournament eventually? I hope it doesn't. That's why I think this one. I think this one's particularly going to be the best one to watch because
it depends what happens with this one.
Yeah, right. It depends how this one goes, but.
I mean, then it's becoming a glorified World Championships where a team gets eliminated, and Dion Phaneuf or whoever says, no, I don't want to go to the World Championships. Well, I mean that's what this is going to be, except it's going to be in August instead of May.
Yeah.
Well, I do think at the same time for a lot of these guys, most of these players, I would probably say 85 to 90%. The feeling of wearing your country's colors, no matter how goofy the jersey is, what the tournament is called, I think is a huge thing for a lot of them. I was very, and I'm on record on this show as saying I don't care about this tournament, and I said that for a very long time. But then I talked to about 4 or 5 guys that are going to be playing in it, and they kind of got me jacked for it. They got me excited.
You softened up, Ty.
No, you're right.
Because I was like,
Take the hat off. Take the hat off.
I didn't realize how important, wearing your country's colors.
Oh yeah.
At any time, doesn't matter what the tournament is called, what it is, what it means to a lot of these guys, especially these guys that have had to, they were 3rd-round picks or 4th-round picks. They had to work their absolute ass off to get to where they are today. To get that recognition from your country means a lot to them. So I think that's an interesting angle. I mean, we got rivalries like there's no tomorrow in this tournament. They've done a good job of that. So I think I do think this is going to be a little bit more successful than the downer in me wants to give it credit for. I think its location is going to be great in terms of the crowd involvement, and I do think ESPN, even though it's not prime time viewing for a lot of these games, I can tell you I am a person every day that from the hours of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. I'm looking for something to do, and so if that's on, I'll watch it. There's no doubt about that. There's a lot of people like that. So
I will say this about this: I think ESPN and the NHL are doing a bad job at promoting this thing.
Yes, they are 100%.
Yeah, and I'd say that because I have friends of mine who I've been seeing. Like my daughter's starting to play in her soccer games, right? So I'm seeing all my friends who come in, the parents, and they're coming in. They're always talking about hockey. And they said, "What's going on this summer? Are you doing anything before the season?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to the World Cup of Hockey." They're like, "The World Cup of Hockey? What World Cup of Hockey? Is it like juniors or something like that?" No, it's pros again. It's like honestly, these are hockey fans. These are like really diehard hockey fans who have no idea this is happening.
Yeah, with the exception of that stupid commercial campaign where the red
that commercial campaign was terrible. Obviously, beyond being terrible. Really didn't explain when this was happening.
Right.
Like there's a world. I thought the World Cup of Hockey was in the middle of the season. Someone told me. They're like, I'm like, no, it's in September. It's 3 weeks away. It's like it's about to happen. And here are hockey fans that don't even know it exists.
They ran it too early, and they're not running anything since. I watch maybe 2 SPN shows now, if I watch any, and I haven't seen anything on it.
Yeah.
I don't see any ABC, although I don't spend a lot of time on ABC. But in Canada, I was watching the WWE the other night with a friend, and they ran them every commercial break.
Oh, everyone in Canada knows it's happening.
So they are clearly running
totally different world.
1 million commercials in Canada, and everybody's aware, and they're running barely any in the States, and hardly anybody's aware. It's really odd.
Yeah. This is my blog for tomorrow, not to get ahead of it, but I've been writing this for a while. I've been doing research and talking to people about who really knows this is happening. I mean, obviously, people who come to Hockey Buzz all know it's happening, but ask your friends. Go out there and talk to people who are like hockey fans, but also like football fans, and they'll think, oh, the NFL's starting, that's what's happening now, and everything. And they have no idea this tournament's taking place.
Well, they know more about Tim Tebow hanging out for baseball than they do this.
Well, the readers of my column know that it's happening because I have an advertiser who's a ticket broker in the Toronto area who's selling tickets for the World Cup of Hockey. So
yeah, no, that's for sure. But Canada's Canada. I mean, Ty, you're seeing the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think the ad campaign, like we said, was trash. It was just vague.
Yeah.
It just didn't let you know anything about what was happening. It was just like there's a goofy man with a mustache interviewing players,
making players that we love and care about.
Here's the other short-sighted part of this too. So on the Canadian side, they literally only trumpet Canada and Team Canada, and in the ESPN commercials, they really did only trumpet Team USA, and that's a mistake because if nothing else, they could have branched out for Team North America and had some really nice spots for that. But why do they have to only mention those 2 countries? I get that those are the big audiences, but this is supposed to be like a worldwide event. Why not include some of those other teams with the other big names too? They totally ignore it on both sides, and I don't get it.
They had Leo Komarov playing air hockey with Tyler Seguin. Isn't that all you need? Isn't that
all you need, right?
Everything to you?
I think they're setting themselves up for a really big ratings disaster.
Yes.
It's possible, but also it's being shown on ESPN2 most of the time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think people are going to – I mean, the idea to go with ESPN on this thing, in retrospect, will be dreaded. They're going to go back and they're going to be like, you know what? It's like – because people do –
Heck, when the schedule came out last month, we looked at it, and I believe there is one game that prime time on the main network, on ESPN, the main network, at 8 p.m. on a Saturday. I think there's U.S. Canada is an 8 p.m. on ESPN, and Game 2 of the potential 3-game final. Other than that, every game is on ESPN News or ESPN2. It is the NHL got taken to the cleaners on this deal.
They did, and you can see it coming. And you can see it coming, and they really did. I completely agree with you. And also, there's the other thing where the NHL really blew this. Okay. And what I'm going to write about in my stories, I'm giving away a little bit. The Olympics were just on NBC.
Right.
And everybody was watching every friggin' NBC network all the time. And if NBC had the rights to this tournament, they would have been promoting it during that period of time, and people would know about it. And it's the perfect thing to promote during the Olympics because it's like the Olympics continue, the nationalism continues, all that stuff. And none of that happened.
Yeah,
So,
instead of seeing,
the one thing I'll say though, because I don't know if it's going to be a ratings disaster yet. I'm not willing to say that. The one thing is if average Joe, and that's not us, and that's not people who watch us, just finds out there's a good game on whatever, it's a lot easier for him to find ESPN2 than NBCSN because we've talked about that. I can't even find that in people's houses in upstate New York. No, really, in upstate New York. I mean,
yeah, no, you're right in some places, but I think that hockey fans in general, and I'm talking about like these guys are legitimate hockey fans. They may not be on hockey websites all the time, but these are your kind of new to America to a degree casual hockey fans who really do follow the game and can talk hockey, but at the same time they don't know they don't know this is happening.
Okay.
But those people that I'm talking about all know where because they had to watch games on NBC, CSN, so they know where that is,
Right.
Where that and everybody's been watching the Olympics, so I think everybody's kind of primed. The NBC networks are.
Some of these games, are they going to say you have to go to the ESPN app? I hope not.
Oh God.
no, the exhibition games, a few of them are on ESPN3, which is the app, which is the website. So they got that's the thing that I think the NHL.
Rough.
Yeah, that's the thing that the NHL should be most upset about, but of course they probably won't admit it, is they got short shrifted by ESPN. Yeah. They're not getting time on the main network. Why? Because it's right in the middle. They still have Major League Baseball games. It's in the stretch run of the playoff race, and they're probably devoting a lot of time to those games.
And the beginning of the NFL season.
And showing baseball tonight instead of showing the World Cup of Hockey. And that just shows where the NHL is in the scheme of things.
And people don't associate ESPN with hockey at all. Like that anymore. It's completely it's a non-factor, and no one thinks about it.
The World Series got a better time slot than what the NHL's getting.
Oh yeah. No, I know. It'll be.
By the way, I drove through Williamsport. People are charging $5 and $10 to park at their house for the Little League World Series. That should be a crime, man. That's just.
That's just smart business, baby. That's all that.
No, that's not smart business.
Look,
I gotta get going pretty soon, but I wanted to throw this out there real quick before we go. And that is that I keep hearing Chris Russell is on the verge of signing somewhere, and I think that it's going to happen soon, within the next day or so.
Russell will sign a new movie contract before Chris Russell.
No, Chris Russell is close, and I heard New Jersey, and I've heard Boston mentioned. So I wanted to bring it up to Ty as to your thoughts on the.
He's
Bruins
not a fit. He's not a fit at all because what they're doing here is they already have 7 guys.
Yep.
That are probably gonna make their team this year. He would make it 8. They do not want to carry 8 again.
Yeah.
Also, you bought out Seidenberg, and you're going to replace him with a guy who plays just like Seidenberg. That doesn't make any sense. So, the Russell talk was hot in July.
Yeah.
But then it quickly faded. I mean, he really is this year's Cody Franson.
No question about it.
Thought you're going to get a mega payday, and you're going to get nothing.
I do have something for Ty and Bruins fans. So Jacob Zaboral was at the rookie photo, the rookie showcase, and while watching him warming up and skating or whatever, he was still a little clunky skating compared to a lot of the other guys. His skating's still not up to par with like guys that are very close to the NHL. So he's got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that I think he's a little bit farther away than a guy like Brendan Carlo, even a guy like Charlie McAvoy, even, I think.
He's further away than McAvoy, I think.
Yeah, and it's slightly concerning in a way. I know a lot of the issues with him. He wasn't necessarily thrilled with his role this past year in the queue.
Well, yeah, he was going to go back to the Czech Republic, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. So I do wonder if that took him out of sync in terms of his development. The Bruins, I think they were okay with that role. He was more of a shutdown guy than an offensive guy, which is something that we want to put a focus on.
Right.
But I do wonder how that affected maybe his personal development as a player this past season.
He looks big, but he just, the footwork's not great yet.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, there continues to be speculation about Russell that Dallas might still be in the mix with him because.
Yeah, I've heard that too. Dallas has a lot going on right now, so it's hard to kind of get through. They've definitely the Nikushkin thing is a big issue right there with them, and they're still working on that. So yeah, they're in the mix, especially if Nichushkin were to sign elsewhere or get traded. I mean, the belief was that someone had to clear cap space to get Russell in. That's not the case everywhere. So it's not the case in New Jersey, for example. So New Jersey could still make that happen without clearing cap space. And
they have plenty of cap space.
I also heard Winnipeg mentioned. Now that surprised me, and I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense, but Winnipeg was mentioned as well. So I'm going to be tracking. I'm going to write about it later today about Chris Russell. So, but just
Who's the
expect
first
that.
RFA to sign, Kucherov or Gaudreau?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Let's talk about that one tomorrow.
Yeah.
That'll be a good one for tomorrow's show for sure. Ty will be back tomorrow, and I really like that one because great article too on Gaudreau trying to put on weight. That was actually in ESPN, which was pretty funny. But how Gaudreau can't put on weight, But if you've ever seen Gaudreau, you really feel like
doesn't matter. Some guys you don't worry about that.
He's almost too small to hit in a way.
Johnny, don't worry. I'll give you some of my weight.
I know. You really do want to give him $10 to shovel your driveway when you see Johnny Gaudreau. He is so.
Then when you see him on the ice, you're like, wow. But there's a strength factor that when you can't put on weight, you still can get stronger.
Yeah, we'll talk about it tomorrow, guys. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. Have a great rest of the day. We'll see you then.